It's usually me, man.
John, this is not better. This is not better.
You know, maybe it's HD, but not working, bro.
All right, so at least put the background on.
Yeah, I got you.
And then I'll fill it. I before I just realized I should have done this last time and I put green next to them, but I'm gonna put the parts of the always sunny background that are missing, Sunday background that are missing. You know, on the sides of him. I'll just fill in the sides.
Yeah. Little ribbons.
Rest of the picture. Yeah. I'll do all that work for you, John, because you can't get your shit figured out.
Yeah, always.
I got
Sunday.
it. Hold on.
No, dude, you might have just made it better.
No, I got you. I got you. I have the. I've done it before.
No, John. Figure it out.
There you go. Boom.
Oh yeah, we got what?
Hold on. Let me grab my hanky dandy headphones.
It's backwards. Wildcard week on the Always Sunday Football podcast. Very exciting. I'm Dave. I'm joined, as I am every week, by Jonny vertically. John, how's it going?
Doing great.
Anthony, how do you do?
I do good. How you do?
I do well, but not as well as our boy John did last week on his 3-pick parlay. We're going to go ahead and kick off the show with the biggest news we've got, and that is that Jonny, our sweet boy, has done it.
Our sweet pretty boy.
Jonny hit on his 3-pick parlay in the last week of the regular season. John, did you know that you hit?
Yes, I did. I did.
And I heard zero trash talking.
Yeah, I don't believe it at all. I don't believe that he knew at all. I think that when I sent the text I sent a text that was like, "Hey, we have big news to discuss. 2 out of the 3 of us cashed on bets." I think that's when John realized that he might have hit on his 3-pick parlay because he knew he didn't make any other bets. And
that was 66% of it.
He wouldn't have known it was. He wouldn't have known it was him if you didn't say it's not me. But I think that's what gave it away. Right. And you were like, well, I didn't win anything. Well, John was like, well, I guess I did, you know?
And it's true. Cowboys.
So let's check it out. Jonny had the Carolina Panthers on the money line, I believe. He had the Washington Commanders plus 5.5, and he had the Detroit Lions on the money line. 1, 2, 3 out of 3. John made a 3-pick parlay at plus 1263. That's a pretty nice number. And he got paid $13.63 on a $1 bet. So if I started talking about it in terms of units, this would be more impressive. You know, it's like he's plus like X number of units, you know, instead of just $1.
That was 2 out of 3 money lines. And if he would have somehow went on the money line for Washington, woo!
I don't even think that it pays to talk about coulda, woulda, shoulda. He hit it. He fucking hit it. And it was 1263. It's not like he hit like my bet was
season.
Exactly. My bet was like plus 500 and I missed it by 1. I was 2 out of 3. Anthony, how'd you do?
I was 1 out of 3 because of the Dallas. I had chosen Panthers money line and then Dallas minus 5.5 and over, and it did neither of those.
I had the Titans plus 6.5 and the Niners laying 14, but the Packers lost the game. I was fine with the Packers losing the game, but I mean, why were they not playing at the same time as the Seattle Seahawks? I mean, I think the reason is, and everybody on the popular social media apps seems to agree that the NFL tried to soften up the Lions for Aaron Rodgers, and it didn't work. The Lions still beat them, and Dan Campbell is the man. And neither the Lions nor the Packers will be going to the playoffs this year. We get what everybody wanted, which is Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. It's going to
Geno Smith broke the single season record at the passing yards
in Seattle.
The franchise
for the franchise, correct?
Right.
Which I'm actually pretty impressed that he did that in the first year.
Yeah, I give all the kudos to Geno, and that team is one and done in the playoffs all day.
Yeah,
For sure.
All
for
day
sure.
long. Yes, absolutely ridiculous. But let's talk right now about Wild Card Weekend. Are you guys ready to break it down a little bit?
Break
Let's
it
go.
down. Do it.
Okay. So we were just talking about the Seattle Seahawks, and they are the 7 seed in the NFC. They will be going up against the 2 seed San Francisco 49ers out in San Fran as 9.5 point underdogs. San Francisco favored pretty heavily with a 42.5 point over under.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take the points with Seattle this game, and I'm going to go 100% with the over in this game. I think both teams. I think Seattle scores enough points. I think that this is going to be probably a game that they score at least 18, 20 points, I would say. And the 49ers are just going to straight up put it on the Seahawks defense. But I think Seattle scores enough points, and the 49ers just absolutely blow them in the second half. I think this game it's close in halftime, and then in the second half, it's just going to be a blowout. So it's going to be one of those games. So I'll take the over and give you the points with Seattle.
So the spread's 9.5.
9.5.
So what is the definition of a blowout, John? Because if the Niners are going to blow them out, wouldn't that be by 9.5?
Got him. That is a fair point.
That's true.
I'm gonna
true.
take the Niners, laying that 9.5 in the over. I think for the exact reason you said. I think the first half is going to be an interesting game, and then I think the Niners just pull it out in the end. To just all around better team, better coach. I love it.
Yeah, John had all the right work, and his like work on the scratch paper was correct, and he got everything right. But then he filled in the wrong circle on the multiple choice.
Yeah.
I am going to take the Niners and lay the 9.5 and take the over as well. Jacksonville, Johnny, you must be at a half chub right now because the Jaguars are hosting a playoff game as the 4 seed and the winner of the AFC South in a very fun game against the
It's going to be a good
Titans.
game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it really should be. This is the game where I think you could convince yourself that it's the most competitive and evenly balanced between these two teams, and like you can see shades of the same type of traits in both teams, and this could be a high scoring yada yada. So before I get too far into it, let's talk about the Jaguars being at home and being underdogs by 1.5 with a 47.5 point over under. We're going to go to Jacksonville, Johnny.
Chargers with the points this game, and I'm going to go with the under in this game. Hear me out. Both defenses have been stepping up in the last couple of weeks. The Chargers defense has been improving a lot of talent on that defense. Jacksonville's defense has been able to put away, their pass rush is starting to develop. I think this game is more defensive. I think that although both teams could put some points on the board, this game is going to be surprisingly low scoring because the defenses have kind of improved. So I'm going to take the under in this game, and I'll give me the points with the Chargers.
I don't know who you are right now, and you're breaking all of your own rules here, pal. Anthony, go.
I'm gonna take the Chargers laying those points, and I'm gonna take the over. And I'm not even gonna lie to you, I don't remember what it was. I'm going for the over just because I think this is going to be
47.5.
I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think 47.5 is fair for what this game's worth. I think this game can go over 50. The Chargers are going to try and creep at 30, and I think so are the Jags. I think the person to break 30 win this game. So give me them Chargers because I have lots of love and investment always in them.
I'll also take the over, but I don't have a ton of confidence in it. I'm not as confident in the over as you guys are. My struggle is, do I take the 1.5 or do I just go Jags straight up on the money line here? John, I would like to remind you of something that you've talked about at length this season, and I have agreed with every word of it. How you can turn your back on us now. You're turning your back on me and former you. and trusting Brandon Staley, who left all of his starters in until the fourth quarter of this game. Mike Williams got carted off. Joey Bosa got hurt. A couple of other guys got hurt. At one point, there was a helmet-to-helmet contact, and Austin Eckler had to take a few plays off. This guy is a dunce, and you're putting him up in Jacksonville against Doug Peterson and that team, that young team. They have as many weapons on offense as the Chargers do. They have as much momentum on defense as the Chargers do. They're young, they're hungry. They've got a better coach in every regard. And I trust Doug Peterson, especially in a game that's only 1.5 point spread per Vegas. I trust Doug Peterson in that situation. So you go ahead and give me Jacksonville on the money line here. Miami Dolphins, Sunday, going to Buffalo in what I cannot imagine anything other than will be a bloodbath. The Bills are only favored by 9.5 points with a 46-point over-under. Anthony, do the Bills stop putting it on them, or are we looking at a line that's a little too low right here?
I think it's playoff.
Backup quarterback, by the way, for the Dolphins. Backup quarterback for the Dolphins. No Tua.
No Tua. Then for
Yeah,
that reason,
he's not playing again this year. He's got medical. Like we haven't really talked about it. I don't want to be a bummer. We'll talk about that after the season because we kind of want to wait to see if any information comes out. I don't see a way that anybody would consider it safe for Tua to play football ever again. But anyway, I don't want to get too bogged down with that. I do not expect him to play in this game.
I think 9.5 is definitely low. I think this is one of those ones that should have been in the teens already. I think maybe that's just, they do have some weapons, but maybe it's it's the playoffs, right? And they don't want to make you, they're trying to just mess with your head,
Well, it's playoffs and it's also a divisional matchup. So I can see an argument where you can see that these teams are, familiar with each other and so on. So, that, but anyway, go ahead.
But give me the Bills laying at 9.5. They're going to win by two touchdowns here. And I mean, I got to take the over. I think the Bills score 30 points a game. Tell me, I think Miami can't score 16, so I'll have to take the over.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that Tua is not going to play in this game because
I could not agree more. Could not agree more.
Yeah, it's it's terrible that most likely Tua is not going to play. I'm also considering that if Teddy Bridgewater does play this game, I'm interested in taking the points with Miami. So there's a lot that is kind of up in the air. So if this is under the assumption that Teddy Bridgewater is going to play this game,
I'm assuming. That's what I'm assuming.
I'm going to take the points with Miami and give me the over in this game with Anthony. I think Teddy Bridgewater is a competent quarterback to put up some points, but it's just going to be too much for Buffalo to handle. I think that he does enough to cover the spread. So give me the 9.5 from Miami and over. Easy.
Typically, they don't call him Spready Bridgewater for nothing. Typically, betting Teddy to cover is a good bet, but I'm gonna take the Bills here because this is the playoffs and they didn't do what they wanted to do last year. I think they're gonna come out, and I think the Dolphins are gonna be clever about it, but I think you could see that second of the 2 touchdowns that they win by being a defensive score where Teddy ends up just not being able to, make it happen. I mean, we like Teddy, but this is the playoffs and Teddy's a limited quarterback. That's why he's a backup. He's one of the best backups, but he's a backup for a reason. That second touchdown of the spread could end up being a defensive touchdown somewhere in this game. And so for that reason, I'm going to lay the 9.5 with the Bills, and I will also take the over. The Giants, the G-Men, making the playoffs in Daboll's first season with a roster that is objectively the worst roster that is in the playoffs right now. The Vikings are at home. They're 3-point favorites with a 48.5 point over-under. The Giants don't look super overmatched to me in this one. Anthony, what do you think?
I agree. These are the 2 teams that had that very, very close spread of points. They
you mean the point differential?
Right. They won every game when they won them. They won them extremely close and got blown out here or there once or twice, right?
Right, but the Giants' record was much more in line with that point differential than was the Minnesota Viking record. So if you look at the Vikings and you say, "Oh wow, they're like the 3 seed or whatever," and their record is 12-4, whatever it is, you think that they're just better than the Giants, but that's just not the case here.
There's a much better coach on the Giants team, in my opinion, and honestly, the coach of the year.
Well, coach of the year, yes. Much better coach, yes. Also, go ahead.
Well, with that being said, and we've said this every week, how important it is, and he has proved it. Like these guys,
Johnny's been talking about that bump of Brandon Staley all year, only to bet on him in the playoffs. But anyway,
one of the three of us could be wide receiver 3 right now for the Giants, and be able to make it. That they have done it somehow, however they've done it, with barely using receivers and here they've made it happen, bro. And it's just so shocking. And the last time these two teams, met themselves, everybody was like, "Well, this is going to be a blowout. This is going to be a blowout," and it wasn't. It wasn't a blowout. It was a very tight game where they won at the last seconds, as they always do. So this being the playoffs. It's a much different beast, much different animal. So I'm going to have to take those Giants getting 3 points. If they're going to lose, they're going to lose 21-20, fam. I take the under.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Anthony on that. I do think that this is a low-scoring affair. So it's going to be the under because the Giants, they got a good coaching staff. They're going to bring in a good game plan on there. But I just think the Minnesota Vikings somehow, some way, figure out a way to win this game. But it's going to be close, and the Vikings are not going to pull away. They haven't blown anybody out this year, so I'm not expecting it now. So give me the Giants with the points under very easily, but I ain't touching that money line with the Giants.
Of the 3 games on Sunday, this is the one I'm most looking forward to watching because these teams, in my opinion, are going to be ultimately evenly matched when you get right down to it. I think they could go back and forth. It could be a low-scoring game, so I'm for sure taking the under. I want this, I'm emotionally invested in the Vikings, getting burned here. Not even because I don't like the Vikings. It's just because, at some point, they have to come out on the short end of that stick, don't they? They've been sort of ending
maybe
up.
Not this week, though.
It's possible.
It's going to happen. If it's not this week, it's next week.
For sure. Yeah, no, they're not a Super Bowl contender. I think they're not a complete enough team. I think that's pretty clear. But this game couldn't have shaken out any better because we see 2 teams that the only thing that's not evenly matched is the records, but everything else, it's man, these Vikings are, way better than the Giants. They're a 3 seed versus a 6 seed and the records, but the Giants could win this game. So you know what? Give me the Giants and the 3 points and the under. Sunday night, Ravens, Bengals. This is going to be one that's sort of another bummer. Just like the Dolphins, they don't have their starting quarterback, at least not yet. It's possible Lamar plays. There's actually a chance of that. But right now with a 7-point spread, I don't think that's a Lamar spread. I think that's a Huntley spread, Tyler Huntley. So the Bengals are at home, and they're 7-point favorites with a 42-point over-under. That's also not a Lamar over-under, I don't think.
Bengals have, especially the last few weeks of the season, just been
slice and dice.
So give me those Bengals laying at 7.5. You get that. And 42 is too low for these guys. The Bengals are gonna want to put a playoff show, and the Ravens and Lamar's coming back. He's got that contract, and he had a couple shaky weeks this year. And he's got that contract looking for next year, so he's gonna come in lights out. Give me the over. 42 is too low. Get it out.
So you do think Lamar's gonna play?
I feel it. I feel it in my jellies.
There you go. I'm looking for it. John? Jellies?
Yeah. Yeah, even if Lamar Jackson comes back, I think the knee is significant enough for him to not be Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson needs his legs in order to be
sorry, Miss Jackson.
Most people, fact check, most people need their legs. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is Lamar doesn't use his arm like he does his legs. So even with Lamar being back,
fact check, most people don't use their arms and legs the same way. Sorry, John.
It's going to affect his mobility. And even if Lamar plays, whoever plays, Cincinnati's going to run it up on them. I see the backups coming in the fourth quarter. So give me the under in this game because Baltimore just simply just doesn't do enough. So I'm going to go with the under in this game. You give me Cincinnati points.
Yeah, same. I mean, obviously,
Come on, you got to root for the over. It's a playoff game.
Yeah, no, I think that you're going to get a handful of high 20s out of the Bengals and maybe low teens out of the Ravens. You may end up looking at a 38 to 40 point game here. Bengals points under. Monday night. This is another sneaky good matchup, and that is the Dallas Cowboys visiting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now the Buccaneers are certainly it helps that they're at home, but they're still 2.5 point underdogs to the Cowboys. 45.5 point over under.
This is the one where I'm going to go money line Buccaneers. The Cowboys just have absolutely looked terrible of recently. I mean, they got smacked. It just shows you that Mike McCarthy doesn't have an idea of what he's doing. Dak Prescott is playing his worst football I've ever seen from Dak. Just very careless, not making very good reads. This Dallas defense can't do everything. Dallas needs to score some points. If you keep it close, Brady's going to burn you on there. So I'm going to go money line Buccaneers. Anthony?
I like that, John. I like that so much that I'm going to do the same. Tom Brady is a legend. And he's going to win when it needs to, okay? He's going to win this game. After this, no. But he's going to win this game. Cowboys are so many times the Cowboys coming in playoffs, one and dones. And you can't count out the fucking legend. And then Mike Evans finally decided to play football. So this is going to be a good game. I think, like you said, it's going to be just like these are the two games that are the most evenly matched and probably going to be the most juiciest games of this week's playoffs. So I'm going to take the money line and over as well.
So I will go with the over and the money line Tampa Bay.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Johnny,
yeah.
We talked him into it, buddy. Which means Dave has two fucking money lines. Ooh, you might have to just see if there's a third one. Giants money line, Giants money line, Giants money line.
My 3-pick parlay is Jacksonville money line, Tampa Bay money line, Giants money line for
get them
plus 1130 something.
No, for the record, I state this now. If my man hits a playoff money line, that's dumb. That should be 33 hunch. All right, they should 3 times that right there.
I wonder if there's some sort of like odds boost I could do or something. I don't know. I'm not that big into this website where I would know all the little tricks and things. John, what's your 3-pick parlay for the playoffs?
Yeah,
Wildcard weekend.
I will take the Cincinnati Bengals with the points, Giants with the points, and give me money line Buccaneers.
And money line Buccaneers for a plus 720. Good luck, sir. Anthony, what do you got?
I got the same plus 720 with the Buccaneers money line. We all love that one.
Mm-hmm.
I want the Miami Buffalo over and the Seahawk Niner over.
Interesting collection there. All right.
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. I like to do overs if I can when I'm not doing money lines, and I can't touch the Giants money line. I think it's just in my head conflict of interest. Just don't even touch it. Pick something else.
Yeah, I can understand just not even wanting to put that in.
I was like, yo, if I pick the money line and then they lose, I jinxed them. It's me.
You can't participate. Yeah, you don't want to have your energy participating in that energy at all. I get it. So who do we see in the Super Bowl, John?
It's a good one. I'm going to take the 49ers being in the Super Bowl this year. What a third-string quarterback. I think that team is just so well coached that they will make it to the Super Bowl. The team's just really complete. It sucks that they don't have a quarterback. I do have to lose in the Super Bowl, but yeah, I'm going to go with 49ers Super Bowl.
Anthony, Well, wait. First of all, they have to play against another team, John. So who do you think?
Yeah.
And you said they're going to lose.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
Oh, in the AFC, give me Buffalo for the Super Bowl. So I have Buffalo 49ers. Buffalo, I feel like, is just this is their year. This is their year that they finally get their Super Bowl. I think this is the year where Josh Allen really needs to go in and beat two really good quarterbacks. And I feel like if they could get to the Super Bowl, they could beat anybody in the NFC.
Fair. Anthony, who's your Super Bowl matchup?
The Bills and the Eagles. Don't like to say it, but I think the Bills will win the matchup as well. And John is correct. He has to beat two. He has to beat two great, good, very good. Three, maybe. No, two for sure. He's got Mahomes
And Burrow.
and Burrow. And then if you play fucking the Eagles, it's three.
You would hope. The thing is, it seems like Jalen Hurts is a little more injured than they're letting on. So the bye week will do them some good, and then we'll find out what the Eagles look like when they play coming into the divisional round. Right now, I have the Eagles playing the Bengals in the Super Bowl because I have to stick with my. I don't feel good about it. I really would like to change it to 49ers and go along with John, but I've been saying Eagles all season long, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with them. And it's fine with me because I have, like we mentioned before, Niners and Eagles futures. So I'd be very happy if either one of those teams, or if both of them are in the NFC Championship game, I'm going to be a happy guy. Speaking of futures, the NFL not only screwed the Detroit Lions, they screwed your boy, because I did get paid on the Lions having a winning record this year, but I did not get paid on them winning, making the playoffs. And frankly, I would have loved a Lions 49ers matchup on Saturday. That would have been amazing. I don't need to see the Seahawks anymore. I would have loved to see the Lions playing against the Niners. I still think the Niners win that game. But that's a way better game, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Lions should be in for sure. Such a shame.
Yeah, it's a total bummer.
Jamal Williams, he broke Barry Sanders' record.
Sure. It's a different era.
There's
but extra games.
They had a very good year.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, the Lions are up and coming. I mean, I placed the future on them for a reason. So I'm believe me, I'm a big Lions guy. That pretty much covers our NFL, playoff primer. John, you're going to be watching the games, sitting back, kicking back, and watching, or are you going to be doing stuff and checking in?
No, I'm actually going to be watching some games.
Right on, Anthony. What about you?
So I have the girls, and it's okay because they understand. But what had happened is about a month ago, setting up a birthday party, and it's scheduled for this Sunday at 4 p.m. The Giants play at 4:30.
Whose birthday is it?
It's Elena's is the following weekend, but we did like a joint thing because the year before we had set up a joint party, and then they had caught COVID the day before of it. So like they saved my deposit. Like I had a deposit on this thing and everything. So I had to use it. That's the place. That was the only time they had available for the size of the party. So I mean, it's 4 to 6, so that's a good thing. It's like a quick 2-hour trampoline, jump your nuts face off, and then I forgot it was good, but you just jump. It's like they do like an hour. They're like in and out, like they want money. Right, an hour and 15 minutes. They're jumping, then they eat, then they like get cake, and then they get like, all right, now you're out. It's like no more than 2.5 hours, so I should be able to get back for the fourth quarter, probably like on screen as opposed to the phone, which is all I need for a Giants game.
This is a disgrace. You guys, I gotta tell you, Jonny with this whole Brandon Staley thing, and now you not even watching the Giants playoff game that they're going to probably lose, and you won't even get to watch them the following week. Gosh, disappointing.
No, I watched the fourth quarter. That's the only quarter you need to watch. The Giants. That's they keep it down in the fourth.
Spoken like a true fan. Sad. So let's take a look back at our DK lineups from last week. We got ourselves another Johnny Ortiz sighting in first place. Let's just talk about third place for a second. I came in third place with a 92.12. My roster makes absolutely no sense. So what happened was I made the game and then I just placed this like placeholder lineup in there. Didn't think about it again and then I realized like, oh my God, the games are starting on Saturday, but I only realized it at like 1:10 or something. So like after the lineup's locked at 1:00, I then realized, oh my God, I never went back to change my DK lineup. Like, let me go back and look at this thing and see if I even set a lineup. I couldn't even remember what I did. So I went back and I looked at my lineup, and my lineup makes absolutely no sense. I could not tell you what I was doing at all. Like, I don't know. I cannot explain Leonard Fournette being in my lineup whatsoever, or Najee Harris for that matter. I don't even understand. So I came in third place there. I hope that doesn't hurt me in the overall scores too much. Felly, second place, 100 points, 100.5. He had a Latavius Murray play that was quite nice. Panthers defense, quite nice for the price. McLaurin was okay. Ken Walker was okay. Johnny, third win of the year. You're on fire, buddy. Keenan Allen, berserk, 33 points. Oh, yeah. Keenan Allen pretty much carried the day. Everybody else was more or less like meh. But Keenan Allen went crazy, and it didn't take much to certainly not to beat my team. And Johnny locks in the win. So, Anthony, how are we on the season so far?
I have no idea.
What do you mean?
I never checked. I'm a terrible
Why
human
not?
being. Because I'm a terrible human being.
Well, that's, first of all, that's a little extreme.
That's
You're just bad at doing things that are important to us.
Is that what it is?
I guess so. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you're a bad person. I just think you just are bad at execution and things of that nature.
I'll make a prediction that
Go ahead.
that Anthony actually won DK.
I think you're right. I actually think you're right. I did have a couple of lineups in there that just made like that I just didn't pay much attention to. I thought about it and I was like, judging from how I did overall in DFS this year, there's no way I could have won it because I did not do well in DFS. I really didn't spend enough time. So that's something I'm going to try to clean up for next year. But the other part of it is, though, that I did. I mean, I've been making the joke. I did go back and try to tally it up myself. And you can only bring up a certain period of time, like the easy way, like the main way, but I'm pretty sure there's a way that I can like download all of my contests onto like a spreadsheet or something. So it'll take me a few weeks, but I'll get it all figured out and I will give you the official results.
Nah, I gotta write that down on my board. Stand by. I'll get it to us.
Well, no, because all right. Well, I mean,
no,
if
realistically, all you have to do
you have
is
to download your results.
The shows. You just
or
go
you
on
can do that. Yeah, you could do that if you wanted to do that. It would take you a little longer, but maybe not.
I don't know. If you're saying weeks, I could do that shit in like a half hour.
John?
Ain't nobody got time for that shit.
You heard that, right? You heard what you just said? Next week, Anthony's going to tell us the breakdown of who won DK. We're going to find out on next week's podcast. I'm excited. Now I'm excited. Because Anthony just put it on his board. He said it's only going to take him a half hour to do, so it should be no problem for him to report those results to us on the next
Just watching
Sunday
every single
podcast.
episode.
Good for you, buddy. Good for you. So now let's move along to the year-end awards, the annual year-end awards. It's going to be the Always Sunday Football League year-end superlatives. Are you guys ready?
Sir.
Let's start right at the top here, right at the top, the most prestigious, the most wonderful. Okay, so when I was a little kid, I had overheard some other, I think it was like other kids talking or whatever, and I heard this phrase completely out of context, but I tried to piece it together with what they were talking about. But the phrase stuck out to me, and it was so unique, and it basically referred to just wearing complete shame, wearing embarrassment for everyone to see. And it's called the brown helmet. We named the award the brown helmet after this hilarious imagery that I overheard somebody mumble at one point when I was a real like grade school young, elementary school. and it just stuck with me. And what better way to use the brown helmet and honor the brown helmet, but to award the brown helmet to the last place, worst, most disgraceful, embarrassing, shameful team in our league. So let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. The brown helmet, which I'm trying to figure out how we can sort of like commemorate this and maybe rename or add some sort of special denotation to the brown helmet to really fully express how depraved and deprived and disgusting this brown helmet winner was. Coming in last place this year for the second year in a row, and has come in last place multiple times in a career that came to an end this season. Toddler Fight Club will forever wear the brown helmet in the eyes of the Always Sunday Football League. MVP. Hey guys, who did you think was the league MVP this year?
I mean, Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. All right. Mahomes definitely. I mean, he was the highest scoring player in our league. Okay, so that I'll give you that. And he was a very good quarterback, obviously QB1, but the team I would say that he certainly carried the team that he was on. There's no doubt about that. However, the league MVP for this year,
Devontae Adams,
was just a few places. Let me just get the actual stats here. Just a few spots behind Patrick Mahomes. Matter of fact, finished as the QB4. Just 60 points behind Patrick Mahomes, which over the course of the season, breaks down to a few.
Joe Burrow.
But led the Golden Showers by having really no bad games, just consistent as hell all season long, despite all the receiver injuries. Joe Burrow is the fantasy MVP for this season, and led, like I said, the Golden Showers through the season to a points championship, to a division title, to a league championship. Joe Burrow. But Patrick Mahomes, it was on my list as well. He was a finalist. So congratulations to Patrick Mahomes. Another one that's just a little bit of housekeeping, the Jim Mora Playoffs Award. The Playoffs Award is given to the team that gets closest to making the playoffs without actually making the playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
Team Blumpkin, winner of this year's Jim Mora Award, for getting closest to the playoffs without actually making the playoffs. And man, did he screw it up at the end, right? Remember, he had 2 chances to get in and he botched both of them. It was like a win and in, and then a score enough points and in.
Yeah.
And it was, wow, did he fumble that bag?
Oh, man. Not what you want.
You know what else is not what you want? A kicker in the 6th round of a fantasy football draft, guys. You don't want that. In fact, that could be the worst draft pick that was ever made in our league. Who was your vote for the Kicks and Six worst draft pick this year?
I had like 2 because I was caught between of round chosen and things like that.
Sure.
So, Jonathan Stewart and Kyle Pitts. Like, got to
Ooh,
one of those.
Jonathan Taylor, you mean?
Yes, Jonathan Taylor Stewart. Wow. Look, I was looking at my football cards earlier today.
Jonathan Stewart. That's a throwback. Yeah, I'm gonna do Kyle Pitts, and I'm gonna do also late in the round Odell Beckham that never showed up.
Odell Beckham, probably shouldn't have been drafted, frankly. So that one, I don't, I'm not gonna. I can't really, speak too much on that one. Jonathan Taylor, definitely tough. He went for first overall, and he had a tough injury, and really kind of didn't really pan out this year. Cooper Kupp, another one that was a tough one, but he was the wide receiver 1 by a long margin before he got hurt. We also had, by the way, Najee Harris and Alvin Kamara in the first round of the draft. They were both extremely disappointing, but Kyle Pitts, just unbelievably inept. He really only got injured towards the end of the season, and it was like mercy at that point. Kyle Pitts did not materialize in any way, shape, or form. He was an utter disaster, and he was drafted in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Just abysmal. That, by the way, was Danny Mack who drafted him, and he was able to survive that. That was, he drafted his entire team. That was his intended tight end. Imagine if Pitts
that was his only bad pick.
Right, but imagine if Pitts had panned out. how good his team would have been. What do you guys think was the best draft pick?
I wrote Josh Jacobs because he was drafted late.
I'm gonna go with actually Geno Smith.
Ooh, was he drafted though?
I think he was.
No,
I
there's
don't
no
think
way
he
he
was-
was drafted. There was
I don't
no
think
way
Geno
he
was drafted because we didn't think he was.
Nobody
gonna be the
thought that
starter.
was a real thing.
Yeah,
There was
I
no-
don't
there was
think
nobody that
Geno
was like, yo,
drafted. dude.
Yo, wait till Geno comes out this year. 10 years later, he's gonna be on
Was
fire.
he? No, he wasn't drafted. I just checked.
No.
Nope.
Yeah, no.
I thought he
way.
was.
Do you know? No, because we would have remembered that because we would have roasted the shit out of that person. You can't knock the person if they did, but at that time we would have been like, "Oh my god, this is your quarterback." Okay.
Yeah, I think we would have remembered that pretty
sure.
clearly if Geno in fact was drafted. We would have been like Geno Smith, like what the
Yeah.
hell?
I would have. That's what I'm saying. I would remember that for sure. So no way. You got another one, John?
Man,
Pop one real quick.
Oh, Amari Cooper.
Ooh,
Okay.
Amari Cooper. What round was he drafted in?
Fifth?
6th round.
Fifth
Okay,
round,
so here it
fifth
is.
round?
Here it is, guys. Josh Jacobs, finalist, 5th round. Amari Cooper, finalist, 6th round. Our winner of the best draft pick this year in the 7th round, Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard had an awesome
Oh.
season. Tony Pollard
Yes,
had an
he
awesome
did.
season. He was drafted in the 7th round, and he was a cornerstone for the amateurs. He really helped that team out quite a bit. So, okay, so
Yeah,
we had
Josh-
Eckler 1, McCaffrey 2, Jacobs 3, and then 3, 4, 5, 6. He was the RB6.
Okay. Yeah.
RB6. That's
RB6.
awesome. For a 7th rounder. Come on. That's awesome. So yeah, so it's going to be Tony Pollard for the best draft pick. What was the trade of the year?
I didn't really figure it out, but I was like, it had to be one of mine. Well, trade of the year is like you put that as like the person made the best out of it.
It was the most impactful trade. Most impactful, most biggest, most important trade.
I think it's the trade that when you got McCaffrey.
That was a finalist. Yes, it was actually the second place finalist, John. It was the runner-up. I had traded.
I think it's a trade with me with Cooper Kupp.
In second place, the runner-up was trading Chase Edmonds and Dameon Pierce for Christian McCaffrey. That was awesome for me. You know, Pierce was solid for a while, but he ended up getting banged up. The trade of the year, the most impactful trade of the year, Anthony is correct. It was when he traded George Pickens, Chris Olave, and Kenneth Walker for Cooper Kupp. Kupp at the time was the number 1 wide receiver by a pretty wide margin, and Pickens, Olave, and Walker were still, spotty players, part-time players, not really coming into their own until much later in the season. It's like a mini Alvin Kamara situation where Anthony traded away these players and then they started contributing. But Olave battled a bunch of injuries, so he was inconsistent. Pickens, very inconsistent. Walker was the one that I'm sure Anthony would have loved to have back. So Cooper Kupp for Pickens, Olave, Walker. And then Kupp ultimately, 2 weeks later, was out for the season, something like that, almost immediately.
It was like 2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very fast. We're judging things now very, very much after the fact. This is a results-based, judgment. There's no question. It's not like, man, because it's the same time when we've talked about it for years now. At the time that you traded away Alvin Kamara when you did, which had become for a while, it was a very funny thing in our league. At the time, the trade wasn't outrageous that you made. It just ended up looking really bad after several years. So, we're sometimes we're prisoners of time. You know what I mean? It just we have to look back at things through a different lens because time has passed and we have to look at it. So, with that being said, who do you think was the best John waiver pickup of the year?
I was gonna, that was my thing. When it said what's the best waiver pickup, I was like one of John's.
Go ahead, John.
The defense or Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'm serious. I must have picked up every defense that scored over 10 points every single week. It was ridiculous.
10, it was like 30.
Yeah, you had two games for sure at the end that really mattered. That you had two. They both scored 35, I think, each, and it was getting crazy. But Justin Fields is my guess.
That is correct. It is Justin Fields. Now, the funny part is that Justin Fields was drafted extremely, extremely late by the Moth, but he couldn't hold on to him because he wasn't doing anything. And then Johnny was able to scoop him up like the week before he went berserk. And that was a big reason. Go ahead.
And I dropped Aaron Rodgers at the time. And
there you go.
I was out. That was a
It was a big gamble, very big gamble. Yep, but it paid off. Fields went bonkers after that and helped lead John to the championship game. So it was the waiver wire pickup of the year, and now he is keepable too. So John, I mean, do you want to call it right now or what? Like, what's up? Are you waiting to see what they do?
No, I'm gonna announce it. I think that it's an easy one. He's my keeper of the year. He's gonna get healthy. The Bears have a shit ton of draft picks that I can see happening. That team is going to be a very different looking team than they were this year. They're obviously going to give them some offensive line help, get them some weapons. Justin Fields is going to be just fine.
Who was your keeper going into this year?
Michael Pittman.
Oh, okay. I think you can step away, right? Yeah, you can step away and go to Fields.
Can we get Michael Pittman and Kyle Pitts to Pittsburgh so that Pickett and Pickens and Pitts and Pittman can all play together in Pittsburgh?
Yes.
Start the petition. I'll sign it. Best team manager. You guys thought league MVP was best team manager. So who do you have for best team manager, Anthony?
See, it's hard to say for me because it's John or Danny Mac, right? Danny Mac had an amazing draft. Like he picked every single position, person right, backup, everything. Amazing draft. But then John did all those moves and made all those management moves and did all these things and made a few trades and did all these things and caught all these things and got himself to the championship. So I don't want to, it's easy to say the guy who won it to be the guy, but to just say the best manager, I'm going to say John.
Yeah, I'm between two. I'm between Sweep the Leg. With all the trades that were made to build that team, strong draft, but then the trades really solidified the team to being a top scoring team for weeks. I mean, there was weeks and weeks where just a top scoring team, and then injuries kind of killed, and then myself with all the pickups. But that's what I'm in between. If I had to choose, I would choose Sweep the Leg, just because of drafted well. Made very good waiver moves, did trades, was just active, put the best team assembled, and you can't control injuries, but that would be my best manager.
We actually discussed all of the top 3 candidates, and the second runner-up is Sweep the Leg because, as John mentioned, there was a lot of moves that had to be made to get that team to where it was. Our second runner-up is Danny Mac for putting together a juggernaut team and managing it well all season long, starts, sits, everything else. He definitely had some fortune go his way, but can't hold that against him. But our manager of the year is Johnny Boy from PBJ because he made chicken salad out of chicken shit in a lot of weeks and served it up fresh and, got him all the way to the championship game. He had objectively one of the worst rosters in the playoffs this year, and it still didn't stop him. So John wins. Congratulations, John, for manager of the year.
You're like the New York Giants in the regular season.
Essentially. Essentially. I mean, that's basically like Daboll's going to win the coach of the year, and for the exact same reason that John won manager of the year. It's very, very, very good comparison, Anthony. Yeah, so those are the awards. Congratulations to everybody who took home an award. If you didn't take one home this year and maybe next year, who would you like to build your team around if it was like an auction, not a draft, not a snake draft? So who's like your most wanted player on your team next year?
That one's going to be easy. That's going to be Patrick Mahomes. Not my first overall pick, but a guy that I'm targeting very early, cornerstone. This is a quarterback-driven league. Quarterbacks are the most important position in fantasy, in my opinion. So I would definitely go with Patrick Mahomes. Well, obviously, I have a keeper in Justin Fields. So, but just thinking objectively without thinking of keepers, it would definitely be 100% Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, I do agree, right? I mean, a lot of times the number one scoring player is a quarterback, for sure. But I feel that you can get another position and you can get that next guy that in a couple rounds later. So I like to still go, an RB or wide receiver as that choice. So I'm torn between my boy Eckler because he finished and did all that, but I just don't know if that's the same this year. They did a lot of passing to him, a lot of throws to him, and that's why he got that. I think McCaffrey is my answer. Going to that team, that offense, and then next year seeing what they do in the offseason and with the draft, him getting now starting with the beginning of this year. I think, if he stays free injury, like RB1, it would be my guess.
Yeah, I think, McCaffrey was frustrating to own this year for a lot of different reasons, partly being worked into the offense, partly because they were, they insisted on using guys that they probably shouldn't have. But I think he's probably my most, the best player in fantasy for next year, best non-quarterback for sure. Your quarterback points, I think it's a matter of them being a little more replaceable. If you could have one player that you would never ever draft again, who would it be? Or you don't even have to have him on your team this year, but it's just somebody who you're like, I would never draft this guy next year.
I went by a person that I had drafted, and that's
okay. That's fine.
Allen Robinson.
Oh yeah, dead to me.
It would be Michael Thomas.
Is Michael Thomas going to ever play football again? I wonder about that. I forgot he even existed.
Yeah, Michael Thomas. I drafted him with my third. With my third.
That's one that I do remember at the draft being like, Michael Thomas.
But Michael Thomas went off the first 2 weeks and then died.
Well, when Jameis went out, he basically was like, I'm not playing for this shit team anymore.
Yeah, basically. So a guy I will never draft again, just because I just simply think that he's going to stick around football for a couple of years. I just will never, ever draft Michael Thomas again.
I'm going to say my guy from my team would be Courtland Sutton.
That was like a fourth rounder.
Yeah, he was probably my worst draft pick. I had a couple of duds, but he was probably the worst one.
I had a few duds, but I traded so many times that I didn't have them anymore.
I also would not really draft a Packer ever again. It's not a player, but I would never draft a Packer. I just can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. No, that's not true. A Matt LaFleur player, not just a Packer. Because if he ends up getting fired, all right, Packers are back on the table.
How about Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Remember him?
Oh my gosh, yeah. The age of Andy Reid having a running back is just over, and now it's just like Jerick McKinnon was a second half stud. Like he was winning people fantasy leagues this year. Jerick McKinnon. I feel like he's 75 years old. If you had to start a dynasty team, a guy who you knew you were going to have until the end of his career or whatever, who would you want, John?
Joe Burrow.
Okay, Burrow. Good.
Yeah, I'm going to go actually with Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert is extremely talented. I just think he's in a bad, like if he was anywhere else, like if you put Justin Herbert on the Jets, we'd be talking about, oh shit, they could possibly go to the Super Bowl. That's how good I think he is. I just think he's just in a bad situation, bad coaching. Or even put Justin Herbert on the Giants. I know Daniel Jones has done a wonderful job.
Killed him. The year they could have gotten him that 1 year, but he stayed in to get drafted the next year. The Giants would have fucking ruined that kid. He was better off at the Chargers. But he's a very talented quarterback. He's going to be my keeper most likely. I don't think there's anything else that could happen with these few people on the back end of my team that I was like, oh, maybe.
I think that what's going to happen is, and this is going to fuck up the Justin Herbert and the Chargers for a long time, is that they're going to win a playoff game. This is how bad the Chargers are. All right, that they're going to beat Jacksonville. That's a really young team. All right, make it to the next round and then keep Brandon Staley. And then they're going to absolutely shit the bed next year and not make the playoffs. And then it's just going to be like this vicious cycle of like, let's just waste Justin Herbert's career. He's going to be the new Phillip Rivers, unfortunately, where he's going to be awesome quarterback, but just never gets there.
For that reason, and also just because I like rooting for Jacksonville, I don't think that they're going to win this game. I think Jacksonville wins this game.
If they lose, I do think they should fire Brandon Staley for sure.
I agree. I don't know that they would. It's weird. It would be like weird to fire your coach after making the playoffs, but it's the right thing to do. Speaking of coaches who got fired, okay, we got some coaches who got fired this year. Okay, like the Broncos coach, the Colts coach, the Texans. No, the Texans story is wonderful. Did you guys know about how the Texans thing went down? Lovie Smith, first of all, 9 years as the head coach for the Bears. He has a winning record as a head coach for the Bears. They took him to the Super Bowl against Peyton Manning and lost with Rex Grossman. was head coach of the Texans. The Texans had the number 1 pick, and all they had to do was lose the game to the Colts. Through a 4th and 20 conversion touchdown bomb and then a 2-point conversion, they end up winning the game and losing the first overall pick to the Chicago Bears. He's going to be a Bears legend forever, and he was fired that same night by the Texans. They fired him later that night.
Well, if they're going to go for a QB, the Bears aren't, so at least they'll,
But then now they have to trade. The thing is, the Bears have the first pick, and if they don't want a quarterback, they get to trade with anybody. Now they're going to get a haul in trade picks, draft picks. It could set their franchise up for a decade because they're going to end up.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. The Giants did that one year when Daniel Jones had his record year.
The Jets won 2 games. Adam Gase won 2 meaningless games at the end of the season, and the Jets went from Trevor Lawrence to Zach Wilson. So the Colts, the Texans, the Cardinals, the Broncos, and I believe there's a couple more, right? Who else got fired? Panthers. Let's talk really quickly about teams that we think might hire their head coach. Did you guys have any that weren't on this list?
Raiders and the Commanders. McDaniels and Rivera, yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Stefanski.
I think that they fired some assistant coaches already. I don't know that he's going to get fired. I think if he was going to get fired, he might have got fired already because I think they did make some personnel moves. I'm not sure about that, though.
At the floor.
Now, I like that out of you. Now, I don't think he gets fired, but I think I think that franchise could end up blowing it up because if Rodgers decides he wants out, they might just decide, you know what, we're going to blow this thing up. But who knows? It's hard to see it's hard to say what the Packers are going to do because they don't usually make dramatic moves. Chargers, we have to put the Chargers on that list.
Maybe Dallas. What's his name?
McCarthy. Dallas, yeah, Mike McCarthy.
McCarthy, yeah.
That's possible too, even though they're in the playoffs, which is crazy.
Oh, they should just be at on the hot seat, if you would.
Yeah, and then also, Sean Payton's out there.
Saints. Speaking of Sean Payton, the Saints could fire Dennis Allen.
Oh, thank God if they did.
Yeah, he should really go. Oh, and then he might not get fired, but it looks like McVay is setting up to leave the Rams.
Yep.
Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. As many as 12 teams. As many as 12 of 32 teams. The big name on the market is Sean Payton. Now, John said that he's interviewing with the Broncos, which is not accurate. The Broncos have been granted permission to speak with him because the thing is, Sean Payton's still part of the Saints. If a team wants to hire Sean Payton, they have to trade for him. So he can't just talk to anybody he wants. They have to be given permission by the Saints. So the report that came out was that the Broncos are going to be given permission to talk to him, but nothing beyond that has come out. If you guys could put Sean Payton on any of the teams we talked about, what would be like the perfect spot?
Houston.
Why do you say that?
Oh, are you talking about the teams that could lose a coach or already lost a coach?
Both. Either one.
Well, now that's tough. I figured like ones.
Well, what makes you say Houston? Because Houston doesn't have any fucking players.
Well, no, just I think if you're coming on there and you have 11, they have 11 draft picks.
I don't see Peyton wanting to get involved in some sort of rebuilding thing at this stage in his career. I think he's going to want to join. Like for me, it's like the Broncos. Even though I said before that I don't think it makes sense, and I think it would be a terrible, terrible move. They have like the ownership has enough money to like pay him more than anybody else. But they do have like some pieces, potentially the Cardinals, because they fired Cliff Kingsbury. So now you're looking at the Cardinals with if he thinks he can work with another short little guy in Kyler Murray, just like Drew Brees.
With no DeAndre Hopkins.
Exactly. Hopkins never playing another down for the Cardinals. That's for sure. So that's another one where they might blow it up because they fired the GM and the coach. They might blow the whole thing up. But with him blowing it all up, they do have some pieces. They're not starting from absolute scratch. They have draft picks, and that's a situation where Sean Payton can come in and really put his mark on the team and do what he wants to do. So Carolina isn't the worst thing in the world. He knows the division. It would be crazy for him to come back and leave the Saints and come back to the Panthers. They have quarterback problems because I'm not convinced by Darnold, although they do have some pieces, but not a lot.
The Raiders.
I don't know. That's another one where in order for the Raiders, the thing about that I've heard is that they can't afford to fire McDaniels because the franchise actually doesn't have a lot of money to spend because they'd have to buy him out of his contract. He's due to make too much because I think it's because they gave so much money to Gruden or something like that.
Oh yeah, they gave him like $10 million a year.
$100 million with regards to ownership and yada yada. They don't have tons of money, so it might just be the situation where they keep McDaniels because they don't want to have to pay to fire him. They can't, you know what I mean? So I don't know if that's going to be the case or if that'll overrule anything. But you know, the Raiders, you know, I think there'd be a pretty good spot for him, and also a pretty good spot for Tom Brady. John, how do you feel about that? Tom Brady to the Raiders?
I don't think Tom plays next year. I actually think that he retires. But I would like to see Sean Payton for the LA Chargers.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. I also would like to see him.
Dallas?
I just don't see it. I would love to see him in Dallas. I would like to see him in Dallas. The reason why I'm saying that is because, I mean, how many big names have been over in Dallas since Jerry Jones has been the owner? And it just never works out for Dallas. Like with Bill Parcells, we know how great of a defensive coordinator Wade Phillips was, but he was just I just feel like Jerry just destroys everybody.
He meddles too much.
So,
he meddles too much.
And in my opinion, I think that Sean Payton being the head coach for, I preferably the LA Chargers or the Dallas Cowboys.
I like that. Chargers. They'll help me out next year with Herbert. I'll take that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Then maybe I'll take Eckler overall too.
I also think that after the offseason, you're definitely going to see some moves. I definitely think next year, I'm going to predict this. The Arizona Cardinals are going to be the worst team in the NFL next year. Easy.
It's possible. It's possible. They'll be among them for sure. John, who do you want for the Jets quarterback? Is it Derek Carr or is it anybody else besides Derek Carr?
Yeah, I would actually like if the Jets could try to trade up for the first overall pick and try to get Bryce Young.
Bryce
I would like that.
He's like 5'9", right?
Look, man, he's a proven winner.
Is there anybody in the draft besides? Is it just Bryce Young?
Well,
there's two or three quarterbacks.
Will Levis.
Okay, so
they have
question
also,
this: do you want Derek Carr, or just hypothetically say you can get any one of those guys, right? Just say that they can trade up and they can get whatever. Who do you want? One of those three guys or Derek Carr?
I would rather have Derek Carr as a bridge quarterback. This quarterback class, I don't think is like a wow quarterback class. I think this is more of every single quarterback that's coming out of here is kind of like a developmental.
Or they're 5'9".
Yeah, or they're really, really short.
What do you guys trade for Russ Wilson?
I wouldn't do that. I think Russ is washed. I think he's washed up. Straight up.
Russ looks bad. Brady looks bad. Rodgers look bad. John, here's what you need to do for us. Not anytime soon, because obviously a lot has to happen between now and then. But before, as we come up towards like combine season, you're gonna have to give us your top 5 prospects at every skill position, and then we're gonna have to break down and do a little draft breakdown. But you're our college football guy, so you got to lead us through it. So you better be ready. As off season goes through, you better be doing your homework for us.
Oh, by the way, Alabama absolutely crushed TCU.
Actually, Georgia did. You don't know ball.
I mean, Georgia. Sorry. Well, I was going to talk about Alabama basically about Bryce Young. I like him because he's just a proven winner. And so far, those Alabama quarterbacks the last couple of years with Tua, Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, I mean, they've had some quarterbacks come out and they've been decent.
I was hoping you wouldn't add Mac Jones to that list, first of all, because Mac Jones not that good. He shouldn't be mentioned in the same breath with Tua and Jalen Hurts. And unfortunately with Tua, I just think his injuries, that sucks. That sucks. But this kid is tiny. He's tiny. Kyler Murray has problems. Like I owned Kyler Murray that one year, and I had a pretty fun fantasy season. I watched a lot of Kyler Murray. He has big problems getting the ball over the offensive line. Big problems. Baker Mayfield was having problems. Drew Brees used to jump and throw balls. I would not, if I was the Jets, trade up for a 5'9" quarterback. I think that would be a horrible mistake. I think you sit where you are and you get the best player or whatever you want. And I think you push everything into the chips to the table and you try to get Derek Carr, because I think the Jets could win with Derek Carr. Garrett Wilson had an incredible rookie season with that shit show of quarterbacks, that parade of quarterbacks. and then you get a Breece Hall back. So, John, that's your homework. You're going to be our draft guru, all right?
Mel Kiper Jr.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that'll just about do it for this episode. We're going to get some DFS stats. We're going to get some playoff action. And what we're also going to do is we're going to put together our lineups for the playoff invitational, the playoff spectacular. And I'll just, kind of run through that real quick before I wrap it up. We're going to put together a lineup, and you're going to be able to choose one player from each of the playoff teams. You cannot have two Chiefs. You cannot have two San Francisco 49ers. If you have George Kittle, you can't also have Christian McCaffrey. You can only have as many as one player from each team that's in the playoffs. And as the players play and the teams play, they get their points. And then as the teams get eliminated, the players get eliminated. You do not get to replace them. And then we just add up all the points that your lineup scores throughout the entire playoffs. And then after the Super Bowl, where the best you can hope for is to have two players playing each other and remaining in your lineup, we'll tally up all the scores and find out who has the most total points for these playoffs. I'm going to try to get Danny Mack, our league champion, involved as well, and potentially extend a challenge to another fantasy football podcast. But for now, we're going to wrap things up. Guys, enjoy the playoffs, and I will see you next week where it's always Sunday.
I'm hungry.
Hang on a second. I am too. I was thinking that too. I'm going to make some chicken nuggets.
I'm gonna get my sauces.